Back to business in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center for Ohio State. These are Snap Judgments. It's Bill Landis, Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. And after Improvement Week came to a close, the first practice of Marshall Week is today. We heard from Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, and Will Howard. And what did we learn, Bill?
Donovan Jackson's going to play on Saturday.
He is.
We learned that. Not that that was a surprise. I think we all assumed that would be the case. And also, like you and I talked about, I wonder how important it is, like, just to put a guard back in the lineup. And Chip Kelly was like, it's a big deal to get Donovan Jackson back in the lineup because now we can start to, I think, figure out a little better what we want to be offensively. So, I don't know. They seem like they feel like they got pretty good work in last week for, obviously a week where they weren't playing a game. But I definitely sense from Ryan Day a little bit of, like, saltiness, I guess, that they weren't playing. Like,
what? He said that he got to put his feet up.
Yeah,
he wanted
I'm
everyone
sure.
on the team to. He got to watch football, have breakfast with the family.
college football coaches famously love doing things that don't
RJ and
involve
Nina
coaching
were
college
asking
football.
him game situation questions. He
Yeah.
said he said it was awesome.
I bet he wishes he was on a sideline somewhere,
Okay.
yelling into a headset.
Yeah, you might be right. Yeah.
And that's
does
the
it.
show.
That's it. Berm didn't learn anything. He's just done.
Have I ever told you guys I really like listening to Will Howard talk?
No.
I think you
Yeah.
say it every Tuesday.
Dude, he's just so... Somebody on the live stream, I think his name was Chris. I don't remember the last name. Chris
What's up,
H.
Chris?
He said, Will Howard reminds me of a guy who won a fan contest to be Ohio State's quarterback. He's just so, like, optimistic and happy to be here. And, like, it really is refreshing to watch a guy who just genuinely exudes confidence but also competence at the same time. And, like, you listen to him and
Competently confident.
you can see that, like, it's really all coming together and clicking. And when you listen to Chip Kelly talk about what Will Howard is doing for this offense, when you listen to Will Howard talk about it, it's hard not to be super confident with this offense moving forward. And I thought your question to Chip Kelly was great. Like, I wish he would have said if he changed his mind. Like, if he coming into the year, like some people thought the Buckeyes would run for more yards than anybody in the country, or
Him? This guy?
yeah, or but now you
Or
start
30
to,
They're on
touchdowns.
pace.
For,
They're on pace.
but now you start to see
a lot of games left.
But now you start to see, like, this offense can be anything it wants because Will Howard has evolved with it. And that was the thing for me today. Chip Kelly saying that Will Howard is still improving every single day, which is important because last week was improvement week. So if he didn't improve last week, then we had to probably forcibly remove him, right?
What if they would have just come out and said, like, we tried, we didn't improve?
Nobody improved.
it was a wasted week. Sorry. Don't even come on Saturday at noon against Marshall. You don't want to watch it. It's
You should show up, America. It's going to be a beautiful morning. It's supposed to be a high of 90 on Saturday.
hottest day of the week.
When does summer end?
Never, thankfully.
Oh.
I learned that I don't know anything about RPOs, which I already could have acknowledged.
I think you do. I think the thing that Chip Kelly said about, well, sometimes it's not an RPO. It's just a thing that coaches say because they're paranoid. If the entire offensive line is 4 yards down the field run blocking and Will Howard still throws the ball, I think it was probably an RPO.
Yeah. Well, I just want to make sure that, because it's always pointed out to me that I am not a college football coach.
Yeah.
And when a college football coach points that out, I think that I should take that to heart so that I don't always know if Will Howard is making a correct decision on an RPO, which is also why I was asking Chip Kelly and Will Howard how frequently he's doing that, because I have the sense that that is the directions to play off what you asked, the fastball for this offense. The fastball is that they can go fast and they can put a lot on the plate of the, again, to build off of Berm's point as well, they can put on a lot of responsibility for the confident, competent quarterback who's able to process the information and seemingly make a lot of really good decisions. I think that's the direction that this attack is going to go. It's the point that I made coming out of Western Michigan, that, like, they may not be a finished product, but they're about to be really, really difficult to try and defend when you're marrying that run game and the pass game and a quarterback who can operate both.
I wouldn't know well enough to make the call on it, I guess, and I haven't gone through and tried to chart it, but I would imagine that Will Howard, on those plays in particular, and really in general, but especially in the RPO plays, has to be operating at like 90% efficiency at least with making the right decision. And again, like I think I've said this before, like I think sometimes those look easy, but I don't believe that they are, just because of like the time you have to actually decide whether or not you should run it or throw it, or on some of these places, run it yourself, run it with another guy, or throw it, or run it or throw it to one guy or throw it to another guy, right? There's a lot on his plate, and he just seems to keep making the right call and pushing the right button. I think that will become more difficult as teams get obviously more Ohio State offense on tape, and also they're just like bigger, stronger, faster athletes who can cover more ground maybe than Akron and Western Michigan have been able to. But how could you be anything other than like extremely pleased with what Will Howard has done thus far in those situations?
And I think we will see the next iteration of that or the growth of that this weekend. Marshall is defensively much better than Western Michigan than Akron. Their front seven is pretty good, especially the front four. So when you talk about a defensive line that can maybe come in and challenge Ohio State a little bit, this is the first one that we're going to see that has the opportunity to do it. So when you add a new offensive lineman back into the mix with Donovan Jackson, I'm really interested to see how Ohio State comes out of the gate on Saturday, because they were so good against Western Michigan. They were so inconsistent against Akron. The timing of the week off, I think, is just terrible for the offense. But
Marshall was off too.
So that gives them extra week to get ready for what they've seen on film. So I think that first quarter on Saturday might be an interesting one just to see where Ohio State goes. But you could tell that Ohio State is not going into this thinking that this is another MAC type of game. Like they seem a little bit, dialed in.
It hasn't. I don't know. I have felt like the approach from week 1 to week 2 to week, improvement week, and even to this week has been pretty consistent. I made this point with the way Ryan Day was talking about the offseason, and I think that he's followed through with that into the year, that they're still not putting any logos up for other teams. Maybe that'll change when they get into Big Ten play. I don't know. But I think the mentality has stayed pretty consistently focused on not just Ohio State and standards and grading a champion and all those other things, but treating all the weeks the same. And I didn't get that sense that Marshall's going to be a step up, because I think that they've taken the first 2 opportunities very seriously, more seriously than maybe some other teams would against the MAC. So I think
Name me one team that overlooked the MAC school.
Only one?
Just pick one.
I'll give you 2.
I'm going to start
I'll give you 2.5.
I'm going to start with Notre Dame, and then I'm going to follow up with Mississippi State.
Oh, a little sprinkle of Penn State.
Wow. Okay, so you guys came with receipts.
Yeah.
Great.
But I guess it's fun to challenge on that.
They're not going to come out and say but we know if you look at Marshall, this is a better team than what they've played the first 2 weeks. So that I've talked about it over and over. The schedule ramp up is really perfect for Ohio State.
I don't know. I haven't looked at Marshall's roster, but knowing what I know of Charles Huff, their head coach, I'd imagine there are a few power conference level athletes on that roster that Ohio
especially
State
at defensive end. That's where they're best.
Yeah.
We know. So when you bring up Donovan Jackson's return bill, we were curious about if he's full go. Does that mean he's full go for the maximum amount of reps? And it does appear like that will be the case.
Yeah, they're not going to have him on a pitch count, I don't think. You asked about that. I thought you got a good answer about the Jackson Smith and Jigba impact on sort of how Ohio State handles injury issues across the board, but it did seem like they really weren't going to push that against Western Michigan. I think that's the right course of action. There was really no need to, especially with the way the schedule set up. But I would imagine we'll see a normal game from Donovan Jackson. It won't be like a series and then take a break and let Austin Saraveld play. So I'm left wondering what then for Austin Saraveld,
right?
Because Ryan Day was asked specifically about right guard. Otherwise, I don't think he would have volunteered this information. But he kind of left the door open for Austin Saraveld to push Tegra Shabola, I thought, for the right guard job. I don't know if you guys had a different read on that. But that's not that I think Tegra should be looking over his shoulder necessarily, but I got the feeling that maybe they might let Austin Saraveld play a little bit there and see what shakes out.
He's earned it.
Yeah.
And so I don't think Tegra has done anything where you think, hey, that spot should be in jeopardy. But as you said, the 2 games that Austin Saraveld's played are more than enough of a sample size to say we feel pretty good if he's over there. Now, maybe not, because in the first 2 weeks when they went to the second team offensive line, they kept Saraveld out there at left guard, not moving him to right. So maybe I don't think that there's as big a jump from left guard to right guard as it would be from left tackle to right tackle, but it still is a jump. And if you're still trying to figure out Carson Hinsman's role or Tegra Shabola, maybe you don't play him at right guard, but I think he's earned it.
There was a stretch, I don't know, it was a 3rd or 4th drive, trying to go back, I think, in Akron, when Tegra came out and they let Carson Hinsman play right guard. I guess it was at the end of the first quarter. So I think Tegra has played very well and been trending up just like the way I think the rest of the offensive line has going into that second half, and then what they did against Western Michigan. But I think maybe Tegra could feel some of that, because they've already pulled him out of a game once already. And maybe it could have been scripted, could have been by design. I don't know, but I just know that he didn't take every first team rep at right guard in the opener. He has since then, but I don't think it's impossible to think that because it didn't happen with a move where Carson Hinsman went in for Austin Sareveld on the left side. So
and Ryan Day was asked about setting Sareveld up as like the Bison, and to which he sort of poo-pooed that idea and said we have 5 tight ends.
It makes me think they're going to do it though.
Yeah, which maybe because I mean honestly,
well, Luke Montgomery's already done that.
Right.
Why would that have changed? Like
I don't know.
I know
Maybe Austin is more Bison-y.
I mean, could be.
Yeah,
I don't know. Luke Montgomery has a lot of Bison in him now.
he does.
What did the Buffalo say when he left home? Bye, son. No.
Really stuck that one.
Wham! Got him. Nobody asked about the kick return game, right?
Oh yeah, no, he did not get asked about it.
It came up, and then it was like veered off into the punt return territory, which I thought was odd. And then I intend on asking on Wednesday night after practice because I think maybe they will have made a decision based on those Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday improvement week practices. But I bet it's a situation where they're going to get into this week and look at Tuesday and Wednesday, today and tomorrow of those practices, and before maybe nailing down a decision. Maybe they already did. I don't know. But to me, that felt like a post-Wednesday practice. Is somebody else going to return kicks question?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't like these days when it's all offense and no defense talk because I feel like there's conversation about that around everything. But
Yeah.
To listen to Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and Will Howard talk is pretty enlightening, and people, you should definitely go check out the live stream if you didn't. It's on the YouTube channel.
There was Ryan Day got asked about defensive tackle and how
Depth.
the depth is kind of shaking out thus far. It's obvious if you watch the games, but even look at snap counts, clearly Caden McDonald and Hero Kanu are above the rest of that group. But I don't know if they're harping on it because they really feel like they need it right now. But I think taking a longer view of the season, they're still looking for a guy or two to step up there. It's been a little surprising to me, I think, that Jason Moore has not been more involved based on how he was discussed in the spring. And I think that discussion did cool down in the summer, or maybe just like Caden McDonald kind of absorbed all of it, which is fine if that's the case. But I think if I'm looking for a guy to be a fifth reliable player, I'm thinking it's Jason Moore, but I think Ryan Day made it pretty clear that whether it's Jason Moore or Will Smith or Tywone Malone, like they need somebody else to step up there.
Jason Moore is sort of the defensive line equivalent of Luke Montgomery right now, who there's all the talk early spring, and then someone else started playing really well, and then it's like, oh, well, maybe this guy isn't good, but that's not the case. They're just in their second year, and it takes time to find a role.
When we parse the responses too closely, I was like, did he just say Will Smith burst? Like I was like,
He did.
well, that really took me by surprise because
He was listening to Big Willie style on the way to work today.
that could have been it. But I remember we had that sort of same, double take when we came out for the first couple practices, and Will Smith was over there like getting what seemed to be 2 reps, and there was a long way to go until the season at that point. But he had sort of been like out of sight, out of mind for me with the injury situation a year ago, and the way that we have watched Caden McDonald and Jason Moore physically progress and the way that they were talked about. I was like, well, I mean, Will Smith's got the legacy and the ability to do that too. So we haven't quite seen that. Like Tywone Malone has been involved, and I think that they're pushing that as another guy to come through and provide depth. But it's just another reminder that there are more options that could be coming along at defensive tackle.
It's also a reminder to me that we, as the media, need to do a better job of asking Ryan Day defensive questions. Because for so many years, it's been all offense with him all the time. Mm-hmm. And if he's leaning more into the CEO role and more overarching vision of the program, then we need to do a better job of like remembering that. Because I think we're all sort of trained to be like, Ryan, what about offense? Ryan, what about offense?
Yeah. Especially we're not last year we got Jim Knowles every Tuesday, and now he and Chip Kelly are on a rotation. So yeah, that's a good point.
He got asked about linebackers and defensive tackles, and that was
Caleb Downs playing running back, which he said that's not really necessary.
He did poo-poo that, which I believe.
He said
I believe that poo-poo.
They're not closing the door. If they might need it down the road, and go back through.
He said he wants him to focus on being the best safety in America, which is cool. But right now, he's the best safety on the Ohio State roster? I don't know. Not in the first 2 weeks. Lathan Ransom said that's my spot.
He was stoking the flames of controversy.
Yeah, I want a little bit of heat, boys. Whoa. Everyone warm them hands.
He said he was still working as a punt returner, though, Caleb Downs. So
yeah, I clocked that. We'll see. I think
keep your eye open on that. Maybe Caleb Downs gets a punt return, then Brandon is cleared to go to kickoff return.
Maybe.
Who knows? I'm going to find out on Wednesday
You
night.
can do a dual punt return situation where they're both back there.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
That'd be fun to watch. We'll see.
I'd watch
There's going to be more special teams talk on Snap Judgment. Snap Judgments on Wednesday, a Woody Wednesday, I promise you, after we hear from Ryan Day. And then a collection of Buckeyes that we don't know yet who they're going to be. But Bill Landis and I will be right back here tomorrow night to do that on Snap Judgments. Berm's going to be manning the HQ for that. But we've got a lot more content coming throughout the week in the build-up to Ohio State and Marshall on Saturday at noon in the Horseshoe. Thanks for joining us for Snappy Jays. That's Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. See ya.